Welcome back to our statistical learning session. We talked about the student distribution. We talked about chi-square distribution last time, and today we'll talk about student distribution. For this, we need to go through the definition of a student distribution. So let's just do that. Student distribution is defined by division of standard normal distribution denoted by z and divided by square root of chi-square distribution, ratio of chi-square distribution divided by its degree of freedom. Here, that's the definition of student distribution. Here, z is our standard normal distribution. v is our chi-square distribution, and d is a degree of freedom, which is n minus 1. And on top of that, we also know that z, which is a standard normal distribution, and v, which is a chi-square distribution, are independent of one another according to Cochrane's theorem. Now, when we do this, we get a student distribution, that is z divided by v divided by d. This distribution has some parameter, has some parameter that is determined by the sample size. It is not determined by anything else, but it is just determined by the sample size. And we know the sample size of our data. And d is the number of degree of freedom, which is d minus 1. Which is d is the degree of freedom, which is n minus 1. Now, that's the definition of student distribution. Next, let's look at the student, the person who developed the student distribution a little bit closer. Now let's focus on that for a while now. Next, what we have is a person here that is named a student. Who is this guy, the student? Can you tell me who is this guy? The student is a person. He is a statistician or mathematician whose real name was William Gossett. He is from early 20th century or late 19th century. He lived during that time. This guy, this statistician, used to work for Guinness Brewing Company. The paper you are looking at was published by a student on 1908 on a publication called Biometrica. It is published by Oxford University. It is really a popular, really famous British paper on statistics. During that time, when he was working in Guinness Brewing Company, he had a small sample problems to look at. He was working on that kind of problem. And to solve that problem, he was doing some small experiments. to test. The testing recipes were conditions for brewing beer. And he had some observation that he came up during his experiments, and they were small sample size for Gaussian distribution. These samples were distributed in Gaussian distribution. When you rescale the Gaussian distribution by estimated variance rather than true variance, you get something called a new distribution called you get something new distribution which doesn't depend any unknown parameter. And that's the reason why he published a paper regarding this. And he wanted to publish this paper on his own name, but the management had forbidden for any employee at that time to publish any paper because earlier there was a case when some employee published a paper and also released some trade secrets. For that reason, Gossett had to negotiate with his employer, with his bosses, to publish the paper under a pen name called student. And also to make sure that other employees would not be jealous of him. In the end, let me quickly summarize what we learned today. We learned about student distribution. We learned that student distribution is a ratio of normal distribution divided by chi-square with its degree of freedom. We also know that normally, as a result of Cochrane's theorem, normal distribution and chi-square distribution are independent of one another. And we talked about the life of a student. Who is a student, when he published a paper, and how he published the paper. That's all for today. I will see you next learning session. Thank you so much.